Friends to take seats, please, and family to return to the family room. Friends. Yes, friends to be seated, please. Folks, please take seats. Please take seats. If you want to begin on time, we have a long service. Okay? If you're not sitting in the family room, please take seats in the cabin. We have members of the family, please take seats here in the family room.
Before we start, if anybody has your phones, please turn the ringers off. I'm going to say a few Kapitel Tehillim. I'm going to translate it into English. I want everyone to understand. Odom ma Adinoi mo Odom vet hadoehu ben enosh v'tichashvehu. Odom lehevel domo yomov kitzel oiver veramtom sheino yehiyu babeiche kechotze yechalef babeiche yotzis v'cholof le'erev yimole v'yovesh yemeshin oiseinu v'hem shivim shona v'im begvurei shemonim shona v'robem omo v'ovel ki goz chish v'nu'ufa limnois yomeinu kein haida v'novi levav chochma Shmor Tom Urei Yosha Ki Acharis Li Sholem Ach Elohim Yifte Nafshi Miyad Shoel Ki Kocheni Selo Poide Adinoi Nefesh Avodov Velo Yeshmu Kol Chachesim Boi V'Yeshev Ha'ofel Al Ha'ores Ki Shahoya v'haruach toshuv el ho'elihim asher nasana. O Lord, what is man that you give regard of him, or the son of man that your thoughts dwell upon him? Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow. You sweep men away, they are like a dream, like grass which is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed, in the evening it fades and withers. The years of our life are 70, or by reason of strength 80 years. Yet their pride is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. Guard the pure and behold the upright, for there is a posterity for the man of peace. Surely God will redeem my soul from the grave, for he will receive me indeed. The Lord redeems the soul of his servants. None of those who take refuge in him will be condemned. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to the God who gave it. Mizmor David, Adinoi mi yogor be'alecha mi yishkain b'har kodshecha. Holech tomi mufoyel tzedek v'doy ve'emes bilvavoi. Le'rogel al l'shoinei lo'oso l're'ehu ra'a v'cherpa lo'noso al kirevei. Nivzo be'inov nimos v'es yirei Adinoi yichabed nishbo l'horra v'lo yamir kaspe lo'nosam b'neshech v'shoiched al noki le'lochach, oise eile lo yimoit le'olam. A psalm by David. O Lord, who may abide in your holy temple? Who may dwell upon your holy mountain? He who walks blamelessly, acts justly, and speaks truth in his heart, who has no slander on his tongue, who has done his fellow man no evil, who brought no disgrace by his deeds upon his relative, in whose eyes a despicable person is abhorrent, but he honors those who are God-fearing, who does not change his oath, even if it is to his own detriment, who does not lend his money at interest, nor accept a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall not falter forever. We're here today to do the final chesed to Jack Diller, Yaakov Eli ben Moshe Yosef. I had the great honor and pleasure of knowing Jack for many years. Jack, as everyone who's here knows, was an exceptional and unique individual. He's a Clevelander, born here in Cleveland and raised here in Cleveland. But we have a lot of speakers, and I don't want to take a lot of time because I want the family, those members who want to say words, to be able to. But Jack was a doer. He was always there to make things happen and to help people whenever he could. You know, he organized a class, and there was a whole huge number of people that came, his friends. You know, Jack had many, many friends. He was able to connect with a lot of people. He accepted everybody as they were, and he wanted to be a positive influence and a help in everybody's life. By those classes, when we'd be together, Laura was there, and he wanted so much Laura to be participating in that, was a class where everybody there was achdus, there was unity there, friendship. It was a pleasure being there. He always contributed. He was always putting in some spice and making it in a very pleasurable and enjoyable way. But the tremendous love that Jack had for his wife, for his children, his family, he always spoke to me about it. He always would talk to me about Laura. He would always speak to me about Shoshana and David. He would talk to me about his sisters. He would say, when he's seeing Susie, he would talk to me about, I saw Susie, I saw Gitti. He would always be mentioning them. He was a person who had a tremendous, tremendous love for his family and everybody who came in contact with him. He put himself out for them. But today, we're doing the last and final kindness to Jack. The Torah tells us there are three partners in the creation of a person. There's the Father, the Mother, and the Holy One, blessed be He. And in the Gemara it speaks about it. From the seed of the Father, there is created and formed certain parts of the body. And from the seed of the Mother, there's formed certain parts of the body. From the Father's seed, it says like the whites of the eyes, the bones are created, are formed. And from the Mother's seed, the iris, the color in the eyes, and other parts of the body. But the power of hearing, the power of seeing, this is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is from the Holy One, blessed be He. And at the end of a person's life, when Hashem decides to bring their soul back to Him, Hashem takes His portion, which is the soul, which is the power that enlivens the body, and leaves the rest for us to take care of. That's our portion. And that's what we're going to be doing today to take care of that, Yaakov. The fact that Jack passed away during Chanukah, I think is very providential. Jack was a person always increasing and doing more. He was never complacent. He was always looking to grow and expand things, make things better. Even in the spite of difficulty, he would always go to help others. And Hanukkah, we light one candle, we light another candle, we're constantly increasing in light. It's the great lesson from Hanukkah. And I want to say especially for his wife, Laura, and the children, Shoshan and David, and all of his siblings, his 5 sisters, and his brother. We all know this already, but I think it never can be understated. You know, sometimes people think when a person passes away, it's a finality. It's the end of a person's life. But the truth is that is not the case. It's the body that dies, but the neshama, it lives on. It's just having a new seder, a new order of things. It has to readjust. And you can still have that connection. That connection, it takes a lot of work. We can't forget. Some of the reasons why people wait a year to put a stone, they say because after a year, a person forgets their loved ones. But we have to remind ourselves, the neshama leapt, the neshama lives. Jack knows we're all here. Jack knows what's going on. And the connection has to be there and maintained. We need the oil like the Hanukkah lights. And we have to burn it. We have to keep it going and increase day after day. Not let it diminish, but increase. And all of the nephews, the whole family who received so much from Jack, should cherish those things and build upon it. Be his legacy. Be his posterity. Take all those great qualities that Jack had. The quality to be there for everyone, to give them the time. He would give a person his time, be there and spend all the time and hear them, accept them as they were. He was a master in Avos Yisrael, of loving a fellow Jew, loving a fellow man. And you should carry on that posterity. Carry that on in your life, in action and practice, with everyone you meet. And think of Jack when you're doing it. And this is giving him, we'll be his agents. We'll be his shluchim, his agents, carrying his way out on and continuing it. And we will do that, hopefully, through all of us adding in goodness and kindness and love the way Jack did. We'll be zeicha for Mashiach to come, enter in the Messianic era, and have all of our loved ones back with us speedily, and no more mourning. I think some of the family members are going to speak. David? Oh, you're going to announce, okay.
Shoshana Diller, daughter of Jack, will speak.
I have a lot to say, like my dad. Okay. First off, I'd just like to thank everyone for being here as we honor my dad, his life, his legacy. Everyone here has added value and meaning to my dad's world, and he cherished his people. I like to give a special mention to Susie, Mordecai, Miriam, and Ellie for providing such tenderness and care and hospitality for my dad as he was battling his health issues most recently. Witnessing him suffer was not for the faint of heart, and you provided him comfort in his most challenging and most uncomfortable time in his life. My gratitude for you goes beyond measure. And for my mom, you provided a beautiful and loving home for nearly 40 years, the four of us. For building a family with him, for joining his, for dealing with all of his shtick, for snoring, the loud TV, for loving him and loving us. My mom cared for him throughout his sickness and health, just like she said that she would. And he loved you. It may be strange to say, but I've been thinking about this moment for most of my life. When I was in middle school, I would imagine doing what I'm doing right now, standing up in front of my dad's loved ones and trying to string together words to encapsulate the great man that my dad was. My dad and I would be on one of our many epic road trips, and I would just have this moment that would make me stop and think, I need to remember this. This is something that embodies my dad. Though this may sound morbid, I don't think it actually was. Rather, I think it shows the anxiety I had about his actual death, how much I was trying to ready myself for the inevitable, even before he got sick. I used to say to my dad used to say, I'm just a man, not Superman, but I never really believed that to be true. I can't remember the first time I felt lucky that my dad was my dad, because I've just known it my whole life. Another reason I think I was fixated on prematurely writing my dad's eulogy was because I heard him give a eulogy for his own father, a speech that was so exact and so powerful that I recall it to this day, and I'm sure many of you do. I remember watching him at the podium, his sadness so deep, and thinking one day this will happen to me, that the love he has for his father is only matched by the love I have for mine. You could not talk about my dad without talking about the love and respect he held for his father, Joseph Diller. In ways the two of them were alike, their deep, all-knowing blue eyes, their devotion to their family and the Jewish people, their way of keenly observing and helping others with a custom mix of exactly what each person needs. My dad carried the immeasurable weight and the unimaginable sorrow of what happened to his parents in the Holocaust and its aftermath. Though he struggled to talk about it without crying, he made it a point to remember and speak life into the experience of his family and the sacrifices they made. It is because of his parents, Joseph and Golda Diller, that the Diller family is here today. Being a second-generation Holocaust survivor imbued my dad's life with meaning and a mission which I believe to be to care and connect deeply. Though I know my relationship with my dad was unique and special in its own right, I must acknowledge that he had a unique and special relationship with everybody here too. I've known my dad for 33 years. He was married to my mom for 36. He has known many of his friends for nearly 60 years, and some of his siblings put diapers on him when he was just a baby. His love was unselfish and bottomless, from giving the schmooze to all of his nieces and nephews, to helping work out a business or personal dilemma. He was there for you. It was never too early or late to call him. He was often running late because he was on the phone too long with someone who needed him. To be a part of my dad's life is to know what it feels like to be deeply understood and cared for. We are lucky to have known him, watched him, and learned from him. We are lucky to be a part of the band that he led. The man could move mountains, all while keeping an even tone and never breaking a sweat. Though please note, this does not include schwitzing. Here's a story about my dad moving mountains. The day I moved into college, it was a particularly challenging time for me as I had accepted an offer from a college in Connecticut, and my family was living in Sharon, Massachusetts, so it was only about 2 hours away, which I did on purpose because I wanted to be close with them. Then they told me they were moving back to Cleveland. I was devastated. I told my dad he would never live it down, so therefore I'm talking about it today. So it was a major transition for me. The plan was that my dad was going to move me into college, but there was a problem. The move-in day was Saturday, which of course was Shabbos. Despite my pleading to make just one exception, this one time to drive on Shabbos, my dad figured out his very own alternative. With the college, he arranged for me to move in a day early on a Friday, but of course that plan didn't go as planned. Naturally, he was running late, which most of the times didn't really matter, but this time we were racing the sun. On top of already being late, I managed to lock the car keys when we were at the gas station. We had to call AAA, and they had to come fish it out, and all the while we're looking at the sun slowly descending. My dad would not allow this to happen. Once we got back on the road, he called the university to explain the situation, and sure enough, once we arrived, there was an assembly line of university employees lined up from our car all the way to the building, all the way up 3 flights of stairs, and they were just taking my pillows, my boxes, my books, all the way up. And the best part is we didn't have to do anything. It was just an example of a Diller does it moment. This is one of many stories where my dad made it work. I chose this one because I think it illuminates one of his lifelong obstacles, which was how to keep the Jewish way of life in mind and in practice. My dad was a man of faith and used the Jewish tradition as a way to keep his family close. When he said he was going to do something, he did. He was committed to showing our family how we could keep the Jewish customs alive in a world where it often is not considered. It was not easy, but he did it. I like to note 2 things that I found symbolic and meaningful about my dad's passing. First is that he died on a Friday, which of course we know to be the start of the day of rest. My dad loved nothing more than to be together with his family and relaxing on Shabbos. Though we will miss him, we should know that he is at rest after struggling for so long and so hard in ways that we cannot even fathom. Secondly, my dad passed on Hanukkah, which is one of his favorite holidays, a holiday that honors the miracles and wonders of life and of the Jewish people. My dad, the Diller existence is a miracle. My dad, the boy wonder, was a miracle. And the fact that we all had a chance to be in his presence is nothing short of a miracle. Before I wrap up, I have a few favors to ask of everyone. I want us to keep each other close. Just like my dad, who kept the memory and spirit of his departed friends and family alive, I want us to do the same with my father. I want to share memories in his honor and do good deeds in his name. I want to keep my dad close. And honestly, if anyone has something they'd like to share with me or they're struggling with this, you could call me. email me, text me. I want to be here for you. You could literally have my number, which is 781-690-2267, and my email is shoshana.diller@gmail.com, and I want to hear from you. I want you to drive to the ocean and breathe in the salt water and listen to the waves. Whenever you find yourself in a moment of anxiety or confusion or anger, I want you to breathe in and out, in through the nose and out through the mouth. In fact, I want you to breathe in and out when you really are enjoying something and see something beautiful. Just like my dad reminded me to do when I was hiking the mountains of Israel or the canyons of the Great Canyon. When you're trying to make sense of a situation, please think of, when you're trying to make sense of this situation, please think that my dad is with his family members who he never got to meet as they perished in the Holocaust, and he always wanted the opportunity to meet them. Stop and feel the wind coming off of my dad's motorcycle as he races through the clouds with his best friends Alan Zimmerman and Alan Gold. Listen to the sound of his sneakers on the court, the dribbling of the ball, the silence of his feet as he lifts off the ground to make that three-pointer, the swish of the net as it goes in. Hear his voice singing in unison with Christine McPhee and Buddy Miles on the drums. When the sun is shining, I want you to lift your face towards the sun and really feel it soak in, just like my dad always did. In fact, when given the opportunity to rent a car, go for the convertible. I want you to crank up that music so loud and not be afraid to sing and play the air drums wherever you may be. I want you to remember that my dad is your biggest fan, and he's rooting for you always. And honestly, I want you to answer the phone when someone calls you. And if they ask if you're busy, say, "Never too busy for you." Just like he did, and he really meant it. Being Jack's daughter was always and will always be my biggest honor and the title I am most proud of. I love my dad, and I love you more than life itself. Thanks.
Shia Diller, brother of Jack, will speak.
Look, Yankala, look how many people came to say goodbye to you. Last Sunday, my sister Giti made a Hanukkah party or dinner, whatever you want to call it. And Jack started up with that he was adopted. Whenever he didn't get his way, he was adopted. So I just want to tell you, Yankala, that I remember that day in 1957. It must have been, you were born on the 30th of April. It must have been the 1st or 2nd of May that you came home with my parents on Hampshire, and we just moved from Saywell and Cleveland, and then it began. You know, the going through the drawers and throwing out all the clothes, the drums, the motorcycles, and all the Michigas. And we called Jack Yankee. I don't know if we spoke English or not, but he was Yankee. And Yankee became Jack. And Jack became the leader of the band. When anybody had a problem, especially my nephews, they talked to him. Chaim Tzvi, who went on a trip to Israel, he calls me crying. He says, I told Jackie everything, more than my parents, my therapist, whoever else. And then I understood, because I thought I was close to Chaim Tzvi, but I was actually a stranger. And, it was more than one. I don't know how many he was their advisor, but boy, are we going to miss you. You know, after that dinner where we compared Giti's or Susie Lacus to my mother's, I agreed with you. It wasn't the same. And when I drove you home after the party, and you said to me, thank you for everything. And I'm thinking, I didn't do anything for you. And I watched him go through that door for the last time. He was always worried about me, even though he had suffered more than anybody. So, Yankala, I'll see you in Gan Eden. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Giti Cohn, sister of Jack.
I wasn't planning on speaking. I'm definitely going out of my comfort zone, as many of you know. But I received a text from David last night, and he said to me, Giti, you said such beautiful things about my father. Please, I think you should speak. And I still wasn't going to. And then I walked in here, and I saw Jackie. And I thought about all the times he went out of his comfort zone for me. And I said, I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do and what one doesn't do for family. So I had written something, and I planned on having somebody else read it, but I'm going to read it. Dear Jackie, as an aspiring posek, you know that we can't do Hespedim on Hanukkah. And in your humility, that's exactly how you would have wanted it to be. You shunned the limelight, even though everyone wanted to hear what you had to say. Your life was about growth, and therefore, I couldn't let this opportunity to slip by. We all need to learn from you. You are the address for anyone who needed advice, a listening ear, or just someone to lean on. Just lean on your brother. That was you. Our problems became yours. You asked about every detail and would spend hours listening and advising. You knew everyone's deep, dark secrets. I always told you that you were like Daddy in that way. You would give the shirt off your back for someone else. You also took so much joy in our simchas. Who could ever forget when told about a forthcoming engagement? You would bellow, min gai tanzena v'chasena. You would sing and sing. You had me literally doubled over in laughter. Oh, how we laughed together. Your love and respect for Mommy and Daddy were on a different level. 20 years after Daddy's patira, after his passing, you couldn't talk about Daddy without getting choked up. You would talk about what it was like standing next to Daddy on Yom Kippur with his siddur, with longing in your voice. Just a few days ago, I reminisced with you at the Hanukkah party about the feeling I still have of standing next to Daddy lighting the menorah. You became emotional and said, "Yeah, everything in our home. Everything in our home." You promised Daddy that you would take care of Mommy, and you kept your word. You waited. The problem is, they are leaving so many behind that still need your sage advice and your warm heart that was big enough to contain everyone's problems and worries. But we will keep thinking of what you would have said to us. I remember you asking me. I was married. My husband was learning in Kollel. He was a Rebbe. And I remember you saying, "Do you have a relationship with Hashem?" We will tap into that. I remember you saying to me, "Do you want to be part of the problem or do you want to be part of the solution?" And always family. You never forgot Mommy and Daddy's mandate to be close to family and be there for one another. You left us Laura, who you adored, and Shoshana and David, to whom you were an amazing father. They meant the world to you. We will stay close. The times we had together, I will cherish forever, and I will try to fill the void you are leaving by emulating you. Jackie, I want to ask you for mechila. You were a much better brother than I was a sister.
Avram Cohen will speak from the Kohen side, brother-in-law of Jack.
As mentioned before, on Hanukkah, a eulogy is not allowed. Because on Hanukkah, it's a time of happiness and joy. What our rabbis taught us, if you speak about the special character traits of the departed, and we try to emulate those traits, then it is allowed. Regarding Yaakov Eli, Ben Moshe Yosef, Zichron Livracha, there are so many beautiful and unique traits that he had and displayed. And I would like for a moment to mention a few. In Parshas Vayera, it says, Vayisa Eina Vayar. Avram Avinu went out and saw men, 3 men. Really? They were angels, but they were dressed up as men. God really did not want Abraham to spend any time there. He just had his bris milah and his day 3, and he was in so much physical pain. Hashem, God, took the sun out of its sheep so there would be no passerbys during the time. But the emotional pain that Abraham had by not being able to do the mitzvah of Achnasas Orchim was much greater than the physical pain of the bris milah. So Hashem went and he brought malachim, angels, to the earth and dressed them up as men. So Abraham to go now and do the mitzvah of Achnasas Orchim. Being able to help others was the essence of Avraham Avinu. And if he couldn't do that mitzvah and the other mitzvahs, then he had no reason, he said, to live. Our dear Jackie was formed in the same mold of Avraham Avinu. He lived to help others, no matter who you are. Mikatan v'ad gadol. And as said before, he always had the time to light up so many people's lives. He was proactive. He wanted people to know, if you have a dilemma, I'm here for you. And Hashem gave him the smarts that he knew how to take a situation and clarify it for everyone and try to figure out exactly what's the best decision to be made. Never did he say, I don't have the time. He always made the time. And we have to try to emulate him and go out there, and no matter what, we know what to do. Meaning, even if all we have is an open ear, a lending ear to someone, that is fine. There are so many people out there, all they want to do is talk to someone. Be proactive. Don't be passive. But then, the other point I want to stress, and when I say it, I shiver. I never met anyone who did the mitzvah of kibbud aviyim, of honoring the parents, like Jackie did, while they were alive, and after Bubby and Zadie left. Their names were with him 24/7. He thought about them all the time. You know, how many know? Jackie, when he was saying Kaddish for Zadie, he never missed a minyan. He never missed a Kaddish. He was a national sales leader. He had to travel around the United States. How many times he could have missed? Had an excuse. He never missed. But one time in New York City, it's right before Shkia. It's right before sunset. And he's going to miss a minyan because the cars are all blocked up. He didn't know where to go. He didn't know where there was a minyan. There's nowhere to get on. Laura was with him. The kids were with him. We don't know where we are. We don't know where there's a minyan, and the sun's coming down. And out of nowhere, someone pops up and says, "Are you looking for a minyan?" How did you know? And the guy pointed to Jack and said, "Go there. You will find a minyan." So Jack gave his Ashes Chayil the keys, took David with him, and said, "David, let's go." And he made that minyan. Maybe that was our present day nace, where there's a malach dressed up as a man. Because for some people, Hashem will do nisim like that. Like for Jackie, who had the ratzon and the want never to miss a Kaddish for Zadie. And even for Bubby, he couldn't get out of his bed. And he was so upset that he couldn't say Kaddish for her. But he didn't sulk, cry for himself. What did he do? He started to learn Mishnayos. And the last words he told me was, Avram, guess what? I love Pirkei Avos. I'm learning Pirkei Avos, ethics of the Father, for Bubby. And he was so happy. And I heard he even gave a shear that was quite good also. Everything he did was quite good. How many of us can learn from him? What does Kibbud Aviyeh mean? We have a giant. Let's try to emulate him. During the Shiva, you'll hear many, many stories. Let's hear those stories. Let's remember what he did and follow in his footsteps. I also want to publicly thank and give shvach to Ellie and Miriam for what they did for Jackie. They gave him life. He had to go to the Cleveland Clinic. And he had nowhere to go. Where are you going to stay? And they opened up their house so Jackie would have the opportunity to go to the doctors. May Hashem repay you, Keif El Kiflayim, reward to no end for what you did. Thank you, everyone. Have fun.
Shelley Lapine, friend of Jack, will say a few words.
Such wonderful words from everybody. It's a difficult day, very difficult day. But I'm very comforted to see this huge group of people that meant so much to Jack to be here today, and to all the other special people in his life that couldn't be with us in person today, but are here via Zoom. And one person in particular who couldn't be here is one of Jack's closest and dearest friends. The three of us and more were a band of brothers. So Larry Weissman, who couldn't be here today, asked me to express his feelings in words today. So I'd like to do that, and it's my honor to do that. And Larry writes, Jack was the best friend that I ever had, but I'm not exclusive in that. Jack was a best friend to many. I was simply lucky enough to be among them. I looked at Jack for guidance, friendship, and humor, and he always over-delivered. A complex character, for sure. At once, Jack could be a man of great conviction, serious, philosophic, opinionated, completely unpredictable, and simply hilarious. Being Jack's friend took effort, but if you put in the effort, you were rewarded 100 times over. He was fiercely loyal to his friends and delivered love that never ended. On Saturday night, after sundown, if you hung out with Jack, you never knew what was going to transpire. but you knew it would be an event. And then you were going to laugh your ass off. Quote. He could quote you the Old Testament over the phone, and 5 minutes later, drive up to the house with a bottle of Canadian Club strapped to his motorcycle. We have other best friends and family that have been waiting for Jack on the other side. And I trust the reunion is all that we can imagine it will be. Jack, I will think about you every day. So turn it up loud. Larry Weissman. Thank you, Larry. I love you. And for me, a very difficult day. But I'm comforted by all of you being here, and I can safely say that the Diller family feels the same way. And Jack and he came into my life at 9 years old. And through thick and thin, we remained the best of friends for close to 60 years. So, why are we all here? I'll tell you. Because Jack built this organization, this corporation, this franchise of people. And he built it with his love and his love and his devotion, his commitment. And so I know now he'll be looking down on us, wanting us to do the right thing. And I know in my heart and my soul that he's at peace now. He's not struggling. And he's looking down with such great pride in all of us. And he's counting on us to carry the company forward. Love you, Jack.
Ellie Albaz, brother-in-law of Jack.
We had a wonderful guest for 5 months. A lot of times you have a guest and you can't wait for them to leave. But Jack was a wonderful, wonderful guest. He never wanted to impose on anybody. He was always thankful for everything. He was just like, I felt like this was my brother, not my wife's brother. Jack would speak about his wife, Laura, and his children. He was always talking about them and how much they mean to him. And we got to see Jackie in a different light. Tefillah meant a lot to Jack. He would not leave. He would wake up in the morning, take his pills, the whole bag full, and then he would sit down. He'd have a little breakfast, and then he would sit down to daven and put on talis and tefillin. He was telling us that for years, he would never leave the house, even to go on a business trip, without putting on talis and tefillin. It might have been at 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe, but he felt that commitment that he had to put on talis and tefillin. He would review the parsha. He loved Rabbi Bragg's Parsha sheets and Rabbi Miller's Parsha sheets. He looked forward to me bringing them home from shul and reading them. He was a champion in Kibbutz Avayim, the way he said Kaddish for his father, and he felt terrible that he couldn't say Kaddish for his mother. It's true, he did learn Pirkei Avos Li Nishmas, his mother, and by the Shabbos meals, or even during a regular meal, he would quote the Pirkei Avos, that Rav Shimon Aimer, Shleisha she'achlu v'lo amru divrei Torah kilu achli mizivchei meisim. He felt, where's the Dvar Torah? Where's the Dvar Torah? He was mechazik us in many, many ways. Jack used to have a lot of visitors coming to visit him. And, he would sit down with them and, he would hear everybody's problems. When he had the second procedure to try to get his heart back on track, it didn't work. And he came home that evening, and he was upset. But right away, he started worrying about other people. He said, what about this person? What about that person? In other words, he was carrying such a problem, but no, he didn't focus on his problem. He focused on everybody else's problems. At this time, I'd like to thank the Bikur Cholim, Rabbi Joseph, and his Bikur Cholim organization for all the amazing things that they did. Jack couldn't sleep in a bed because with the heart condition, so they brought one chair, another chair, whatever we needed for him, whatever we needed for my mother-in-law. Bikur Cholim was there, and we are so lucky that our community has this organization which will do for anybody and everybody. So now Jackie, Yaakov Eli ben Moshe Yosef, is with mom and dad in the Olam HaEmes. He can no longer do mitzvahs, so he's counting on us. We all counted on him for so much during his time in this world. It's our chance to give him back. I'd like to ask Mechila, if we didn't give you the proper attention or whatever you needed, Bilam lamavas lenetzach u'macha Hashem elikim dimam me'al kol panim.
Tati, brother-in-law of Jack.
Really, it was around 11 o'clock, and the truth is I really wasn't going to speak. It's Hanukkah, it's really not a time for a Sfadim. But how could I not just say a few words? I knew Jack almost 40 years, and I could tell you he never changed. He was a Gibor, a giant then, and he's a Gibor now, till the end. You see, Jack had a huge heart. He cared about everybody. He loved his parents, but he didn't just love his parents. He loved his parents. He loved Laura and Shoshana and David. They were his whole life. Jackie would give his shirt off his back to help anybody. He had so many friends, and he had a knack to make everyone feel like they were his best friend. I never met someone who cared so much about his nieces and his nephews. He had to know every detail what was going on with them. To my wife, he was the best brother a person could have. You see, growing up, there was never anything she wanted that he wouldn't get for her. The last 4 months was very hard for him. You see, he was always a giver. But the last 4 months, he wasn't able to give like before. He was like a receiver, and that was very hard for him. He felt bad to have to come on to other people. But even when he was dealing with his issues, he was always worrying about everybody else. The last 6 weeks were very hard. He missed his mother very much. He couldn't walk into the house. he couldn't handle seeing the room. My daughter made a video of Bubby. It was a beautiful video. It brought out it was unbelievable. And we put it in front of him to try to watch the video. He couldn't handle it. He said, maybe later. I feel bad he never saw that video. The last time I spoke to him, a day or two before he was nifter, he was very nervous. He was very nervous about going to Chicago. He told me not to tell Susie. And, but like always, Jackie put everybody first. He felt he had to be there for his family. They haven't seen him. He was looking very much to see them again, and he felt like they needed him to be there.
Say this for my mother, dear Jackie. We were never able to say goodbye to each other after every time we left Cleveland and whenever we were not seeing each other. And now is no different. I know you will love me forever, and I will be right by my side like you were my whole life. Thank you for everything and for loving me so much unconditionally, and I hope I can make you proud. Always yours, Suzela Butch, as you always lovingly called me. To the outsider, he was just an uncle, but those who knew Uncle Jackie, he was so much more than an uncle. He taught me so much and how to be a real person. The commitment to growing, he would always tell me where he was holding and davening and learning, and how happy he was to daven and learn. The care he had for us and love he showed us, unconditionally asking how I was doing in school and insisting to call my rabbis. By him, the most important thing was us, the family, and connecting with his siblings and the nephews and the nieces. He knew what was going on in all of our lives. He was always listening, our listening ear. And how much does he know? How many secrets did we all tell him? How he remembered where we left off, and the next time we saw him, he would literally continue from the sentence that we finished on. And who doesn't have a nice text from Uncle Jackie on their phone after they were either told him something and he would check up on us? Uncle Jackie's participation in our simchas, he would just sing, and how much effort he put in. It wasn't always easy to come to Lakewood, where all of our simchas are. Making sure to attend every simcha, and he would love to meet all the new cousins and those who joined the family. How much he taught me with the way he treated Bobby and the respect. I could only wish to emulate how you treated Bobby with the utmost care. As Yankala, as she called you. How you used to lovingly talk about the Zaidi that I never really knew. You used to, when you talked about Zaidi every time, you could just see the deep respect that you had for Zaidi. We bonded over many memories throughout the years, watching the games together, and it'll be never the same with that. It will never be the same without you. Won't be able to give you another massage with the elbows. So Uncle Jackie, you taught me so much. How can we say thank you? Even through the struggles of the last few months, you kept on teaching on how to live life. You never complained. You were always positive. Even walking a few steps would be difficult, but you just continued to laugh through life as you always taught us how to live life. And making those around you smile was your life's mission. And you did amazing. And I will always remember the determination to grow and inspire those around you. I want to ask Mechila if I didn't do enough to help you out. I tried to pull up your car, but you never let. Your favorite nephew, Yo Malch Hashem, Kimley.
Normally we would say Keil Mole, the memorial prayer, but being Hanukkah, we don't say that. The interment will be in the cemetery on the west side, Chesed Shel Emes. Second. The family will be sitting Shiva and receiving visitors at 3547 Shannon. 3541. 3541. Separate.
No, I haven't got it yet.